Right now, things are brewing that'll set the stage for tornado season 2024, which Reed has been studying and processing so he can tell you how many tornadoes your state is going to see, and how much action you can expect from Team Dominator. And just so you know, he's not pulling this out of thin air, he's going to walk you through how he put this forecast together. Because don't forget, for all the crazy vehicles and all the yelling, Reed has a PhD and he did his dissertation on this stuff. So let's dive in.
For this forecast, we're going to start with the 30-year averages. Note that Texas is far ahead of the other states because of its sheer size. But let's dig a little deeper. On the left is a heat map of those averages, and on the right is the touchdown point of every tornado. On the bottom is all those tornadoes again, but this is a time series, and we can filter out the rest of it to focus on 1 year. If we look at 2011, for example, you can see that Alabama actually got the most tornadoes this year, and not Texas. So can we expect a similar shift into 2024? The best place to start is with the Pacific Ocean, because in terms of weather, it's located upstream of North America. And we're going to focus on the sea surface temperatures of two areas, the famous El Nino, but an equally if not more important pattern known as the North Pacific Oscillation. These areas have a shared teleconnection with the US, meaning that they both have a huge influence on the amount of precipitation that we see during spring in Tornado Alley. But these two areas fluctuate individually between hot, cold, and neutral phases. And what phase they're in dictates how the weather will respond downstream in North America. In very general terms, the more rainfall that happens in the Great Plains during spring, the more severe weather they're likely to see. So let's add both sets of sea surface temperature data to the dashboard. Up here is the North Pacific Oscillation, and here is El Nino and La Nina. And to show you how this will help our forecast later, we'll look at an example. We could see that the NPO was very warm, and a transitioning La Nina was dominating the Pacific. And I believe that combination led to the most active month in recorded history, with over 700 tornadoes during April of 2011 alone. That included the forgotten outbreak of April 15th and the super outbreak of April 27th. And we noticed that most of the action was focused in Dixie Alley, and the Great Plains were a bit quieter.
So now we know that different combinations of sea surface temperatures make for different outcomes in tornado season, the amount that happen and where they happen. So now we need to figure out how we expect the sea surface temperatures to be next year.
For El Nino, the models in the Climate Prediction Center feel that the mature El Nino conditions are going to be around for a while, at least through the summer. And that's because when we look under the surface, there's no cold water anywhere in sight. For the NPO, this warm blob of ocean water around Japan should migrate east to the North Central Pacific by spring, fed by a fire hose of warm water.
So from this next year, we expect both the northern and southern waters to be warm. So what has that combination meant for tornadoes in the past 30 years? How many and where'd they happen? Now we'll put this dashboard to use, looking for other periods in the past with a warm combination. But when we look back at the rest of the timelines, we see that they're usually opposite each other in temperature. So Reed has carefully selected portions of 3 different years to inform his 2024 tornado forecast, and the results are telling. But first, we're going to take a minute to talk about mental health and thank today's sponsor.
Lots of people worry about storm chasers staying physically safe, but to travel, damage, and action we see can take a toll mentally. BetterHelp connects you with one of 30,000 licensed therapists to provide you with unbiased, helpful advice. And it's flexible, even if you're always on the go like me. You can schedule when it's convenient for you and have your sessions as a phone call, a video chat, or even through messaging. If you think you might benefit from therapy, consider BetterHelp. You can click on the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/ReedTimmer. Clicking on that link helps support our storm chasing, and you'll get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. To get started, fill out the questionnaire so they can match you with the right therapist, and you'll usually get one within 48 hours or less. And if your first therapist is not a match, which is common when starting therapy, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without worrying about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. People spend hours at the gym, so why not give your mind the same attention? Click the link and try BetterHelp today.
So Reed has scanned the past 30 years or so to see what a warm NPO and a warm El Nino meant for tornadoes. And the first year he landed on was 1991.
Here we see that there is a bit of an overlap with warm waters in both areas. Let's see where tornadoes happened in this year. If you look at it, you can see there's not as many tornadoes in Dixie Alley, but there are quite a few in Tornado Alley. This year, the US saw 1,226 tornadoes, just one above average. That includes an infamous F5 that hit Andover, Kansas, the same town that this tornado ripped through in 2022. But let's check our next year with warm waters, 2002. This year looks a lot different. As opposed to 1991, there's more going on in Dixie Alley and less happening in Tornado Alley. And this was the first El Nino I ever chased when I saw my first softball-sized hailstone. In 2002, there were 1,163 tornadoes, which is a bit below average, but a lot of big-time tornadoes happened in the southern plains. This last year we'll look at is 2015. This seems like more is going on in both Tornado Alley and Dixie Alley. And there was, for a total of 1,500 tornadoes, much above the average. Including this one on Mother's Day, when I took my mom for what turned out to be her first and last chase.
So we have 3 years with a similar ocean temperature setup. One has lower than average numbers, one has an average amount, and one has a much larger than average amount. And they all seem to have action concentrated in Tornado Alley. But you don't just average those numbers, so don't think that's where we're going. Reed also looked at aspects of 2023, 2011, and 1972 and 2008. He gave these years less weight because the El Nino is not as mature as the current one.
From these years, I've created an average supercomposite for the expected upper level height field, which lets us know how the jet stream will likely be displaced during the upcoming tornado season. The bright yellow in the North Pacific shows where a ridge of high pressure should dominate, and downstream from that over western North America, you see that a trough dominates in blue. This setup suggests that we can expect a western U.S. trough to prevail during tornado season, and that means active severe weather for the central and eastern U.S. But we have one more big factor at play now. The Gulf of Mexico is warmer than usual, and that will mean more moisture being pumped northward ahead of these storm systems.
So now here we are from this supercomposite. Reed has considered the number of tornadoes and where they're going to happen, and here are the results.
So first, let's look at the states where we project that tornado numbers will stick close to the average. You might expect a return to normal, Illinois, after an absolutely crazy year this year, with Illinois being the leader at already 135 tornadoes. And now the states where we expect lower than normal tornado numbers. You may have less to worry about in 2024, Ohio, after being hit with 56 tornadoes this year already. And of course, where we expect more tornadoes in 2024. Well, it seems like Tornado Alley will awaken once again for the first time in years. States like Nebraska, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, New Mexico, and Texas will see above normal tornadoes. But also Louisiana and Florida across the far southern U.S. will see above normal tornadoes in 2024.
So there you have it. Using the Team Dominator Supercomposite, Reed has forecast that these will be the state tornado numbers in 2024, totaling up to 1,207 tornadoes, which is 15% above the average. That means you can expect to see Team Dominator out chasing fairly often, and that you should stay weather aware yourself. And here's a reminder that we're pushing live stream to its limits on this channel. So if you don't want to miss any action, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any alerts. And if you're interested in diving deeper into Reed's forecast, consider becoming a channel member, because then you'll get access to his member-only live streams, including the one where he breaks down all the steps of how he put this together and goes a bit deeper into the science. Thanks for watching, and never stop chasing.